My name is Peter Griffith. I'm the Chief Support Scientist for the Carbon Cycle and Ecosystems Office at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. Up until COVID, very much so. I've taken a lot of effort through the years to continue to be involved with scientific expeditions. So in normal times, I have a fair amount of travel. And as the project manager, I get to go fly on NASA jets and coordinate with hundreds of science team members who are spread across Canada and Alaska. And I sometimes pinch myself because I get to go to some of the most beautiful, if rapidly changing parts of the planet, and be involved in coordinating research that has a big impact for for human society. So yeah, I mean it does require a lot of travel, and sometimes that can get to be a drag, but it's something that I've enjoyed doing since I started off in a completely different field. I grew up in Central Florida, about 40 miles from Cape Canaveral, on a lake. And my favorite things to do were to swim in the lake. It's where I learned to snorkel. It's where I learned to scuba dive. When there were rocket launches from this lake, I could see the Saturn V rockets head off to the moon. And in those days, all of the right stuff astronauts, I never even thought for a second that I was that sort of person. But I did really like scuba diving. So in high school, got really into scuba diving. In college, studied botany and zoology and marine biology. And my first job out of college was as a scientific diver for the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History. Somewhere in the course of that, I really liked that sort of going out to these amazing places in the world, style of life and of science. And I decided that if I wanted to run expeditions, that from what I could tell, I needed to have a PhD. So I actually left the Smithsonian, went to the University of Georgia and got a PhD in ecology. And my research at that point, I got to be more on top of the water. I was doing biological oceanography. So I kind of went from in the water to on top of the water. After doing a PhD and a postdoc, where in the course of all that, I was very deeply into designing and building the instruments that would go into the water. That led me to a sideways move out of research and to a company that was owned by the French Space Agency that was commercializing technologies that were developed with the French Space Agency for Earth observation, both from mostly in the water, but also on the land, and also at that point from space. So that was my first introduction into remote sensing. I ended up working for them for about 10 years and was the head of their American operation. And one day I got a phone call out of the blue from somebody who was looking for a deputy project manager for a NASA field campaign in Brazil. It was intriguing to think about going to NASA, and I had at that point 10 years of experience managing groups of programmers and engineers who were developing the observational capabilities for looking at environmental challenges for government and university and commercial customers. Unrelated to any of this, the rest of my my journey through science. I have family and friends in Brazil. I spent a lot of time in Brazil. I speak Portuguese, and all of a sudden, they have this position for someone managing a big field campaign in the Amazon rainforest, and I was like, okay, I think I could do that. I can move from from my ocean world to the sea of forests, the sea of trees that the Amazon consists of, and that worked out very well for me. And I've been at Goddard Space Flight Center for 20 years now. When I'm not in the field, it is a lot of work in front of a computer, whether it's doing fun stuff like analyzing data, or doing really necessary but not necessarily as fun stuff like building budgets and timelines for projects. One of the things that I like is that I get to take most of the training, so I do the wilderness first aid training. I do the wildlife, the wildlife training. We get to get refresher courses in how to use a shotgun, and we have to go through the qualifications to show that you can hit a moving target with 5 shots in less than 45 seconds, and those sorts of things. There's a whole lot of moving pieces that get put together, for one of these expeditions to be conducted with good scientific results and with safety for all the people involved. Then when we're on deployment, then a typical day is very different. It's probably get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, check some emails, check the weather, confirm with field teams that people are on site for the measurements that they're planning to make that are coordinated with aircraft that will be flying over a particular site that day. Then we'll meet with the pilots. They will brief us on operational weather constraints for the aircraft. So at the beginning of the day, there are decisions to be made that ultimately, there are a number of people who are involved, from the instrument team, from the scientists who are on the ground, from the pilots who are operating the aircraft. But ultimately, I have to synthesize all of that and say, okay, today our priority is to fly here, here, and here, measuring this, this, and this, and coordinated with this particular ground team. It's a real complex jigsaw puzzle, and it's one of the most fun things to do. Some of the bureaucracy gets to be a drag sometime, but it's mainly tolerable. I think there are times when the travel can weigh on a person, but it means sometimes 2 or 3 weeks away, and then a week at home, and then another few weeks away, and that can be difficult at times, but it's also tremendously exciting. So I'm not really complaining about that. in the pre-college education, I had a broad education in liberal arts and in math and science, and I think that's really important. Um, it helps a lot to there's so much writing involved in being a scientist that the fact that I had to write lots of papers and essays and things like that in high school and in college, is something that I think helped a lot. The biggest thing from before I got to college that impacted my college and after immediate life is what I mentioned before, was the scuba diving. I was really involved with our high school's outdoor program. So we did whitewater kayaking, sailing, caving, rock climbing, and all those sorts of things. And so that certainly all of the kind of skills that are involved with that sort of work helped a lot when I kind of went down the expeditions um, side of or track in life, as it turned out. I think that at this point there are a number of things that have affected me extraordinarily, which is being able to go into some of the most extraordinary places on the planet, whether it's the Amazon rainforest or the coral reefs of the Caribbean, or the great boreal forest of Alaska and Canada. These are deeply impactful experiences, humbling to have seen some of the splendor of the planet. I feel extraordinarily fortunate to have done that, and at the same time to be doing research and development of remote sensing capacities that have a big impact, not just on science, but on the decisions that people make, and on the quality of life for everyone on Earth. Working in a field that provides ways to help people is I think is really an important motivator. It's a terrific thing and a great privilege to be involved with that kind of work. I think I have my yeah. I think I have my dream job. One of the things that's really important to know about the way at least these big science projects happen nowadays is that there's a very there's a very large number of people that are involved, and they come with all kinds of different backgrounds. So there isn't a single path to being involved in, for instance, one of these expeditions. In my own case, I suppose there's always a lot of luck involved, but I was always doing things that I really liked. It doesn't mean they weren't hard. I very often feel like like I have some fraction of the intelligence that I actually need in order to do the work that I'm doing. Um, but the key to that is is being able to work with a lot of other smart people. It turned out that languages, partly I had the direct application of the Portuguese um, to the NASA project. I don't think I mentioned that with the other uh, project. I mentioned that we worked across the Americas, and so uh, I also speak Spanish. So having the ability to work across Latin America uh, was um, was very useful. I'm always put in a plug for languages. Um, but part of the of knowing more than one language is also the comfort of working around people from a lot of national backgrounds. At NASA, you walk down the hall and you can hear, Spanish and Chinese and French and German and uh, all sorts of languages, and to me that is that's an exciting and an inspiring kind of work environment. So I'd certainly recommend at least one foreign language in whatever in whatever you're studying.